foundation. But last few months, the topic totally had changed, and people talk a lot about mass adoption and how we can get millions and billions of people use the blockchain technology. So here we have a great panelist, and please welcome Fedchenkov, co-founder of Insolar, Lily Liu, co-founder of Earn.com, and Naayem, Chief Business Officer of Dapper, which is behind the CryptoKitties, and Nakhoon Choi from Blockchain, and Levitt, Head of Strategy of Theta, and John Hurdy, co-founder of Origin Protocol, and Dorjee Sun, Project Manager of Perlin, and Joyce Yang from GlobalCoinResearch will moderate the panel discussion. Welcome all.
All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Wait, we're quite close to the end, but not so quite, but this is a very exciting panel. I'm here to present you the road to mass adoption. Why don't we have everyone introduce themselves here? We have a great group of panelists, starting Origin.
Hello, my name is John. I'm from Origin Protocol, and we are building a blockchain platform for decentralized peer-to-peer marketplaces.
My name is Levitt. I'm head of strategy for Theta, and what we're building at Theta is a decentralized content delivery network.
My name is Nakhoon Choi. I'm the advisor for Chain, which is the space-based technology reverse ICO based in Korea.
I'm Lily Liu. I'm as well the co-founder and CFO of Earn.com, which we exited earlier this year to Coinbase.
I'm Mick. I'm with Dapper. We're creators of CryptoKitties, and we care about consumer blockchain and that adoption.
My name is Fedchenkov. I'm co-founder of Insolar. We are building enterprise-grade fourth-generation blockchain that abstracts complexity and scalability issues from blockchain applications in the corporate environment.
Hi everyone, Dorjee Sun, originally from Australia, now living in Singapore. I've co-founded 3 different projects and a Bitcoin arbitrage fund called Virtual Capital, but right now our main focus is Perlin.net, and what Perlin is if you think about cloud computing, if you think about AWS, basically it's now a decentralized approach to that, so you can put your laptop or your mobile phones, and at night time when you're sleeping it can basically run AI models, machine learning models, and earn money.
Great, thank you everyone. So this topic that we're talking about, road to mass adoption, it probably means different things for each of you since you are all specializing in building different things. Why don't we have each of you talk about what it means to you to have mass adoption and how far you're along there?
Yeah, so we're focused on marketplaces, and we are building developer tools and tools for businesses to build these decentralized peer-to-peer marketplaces that are actually peer-to-peer. So today a lot of these marketplaces are described as peer-to-peer, but actually have a centralized entity sitting in the middle, collecting data, etc. So for a long time people have been saying blockchain is a perfect fit for cutting out the middleman in these types of marketplaces. So we think this is inevitable long-term, that these transactions will become truly peer-to-peer. But to get mass adoption of this, there is a lot, it's definitely an uphill battle for a lot of obvious reasons with things like scaling and UX. But currently, you know, there's just some really, really big companies in the space, Airbnb, Uber, Craigslist, eBay, etc. So we're focused, in order to get this mass adoption, we think the first step is creating tools for developers. Right now, not a lot of developers know Solidity, for example, but most know JavaScript, so we're working on a JavaScript library that will allow developers to quickly create these decentralized marketplaces without knowing how to create a safe, secure smart contract, for example. So we think this is one of the first things to focus on to get to mass adoption, is building more developer tools, but don't think we're there yet. Still quite a lot of work to do.
Yeah, so mass adoption for us, it looks a little different because what we're building at Theta isn't, it's not a consumer play exactly. What we're building is video infrastructure, kind of akin to Akamai or AWS to power video platforms like a YouTube or a Twitch. So, yeah, at least in initial stages, not really something we're looking for mass consumer adoption as much as we're looking to integrate with major video platforms. So it's a different set of challenges. It's not so much UI and easy customer interface, it's navigating what works for a major corporation oftentimes. So it's a different set of hoops we have to jump in. We have to think about regulatory issues on their end. We have to think about how treasury management of tokens works for someone who's not experienced in that. But yeah, if we can be adopted by a major platform like that, I think mass adoption for us will hopefully be seamless for a consumer. They would never even have to really make any changes on their end to be benefiting from the technology.
When I came to the blockchain industry was very unique to me in a sense that I think it was the first industry that the layman actually need to talk about, like which technology, like standard technology that we need to adopt or things like this. I remember that I did that in the VHS or the beta fight or TCP/IP, whatever, that I don't remember that general public had to worry about which technology is superior to adopt a new machine or new technology. But blockchain was the only industry I remember that everybody was on board to make sure that what kind of the generic operating system or whatever that we need to worry about. So in that sense, I think that was a little bit, I thought that was okay, but a little bit ridiculous on the consumer side actually. So for our company that we already have mass adoption in separate categories, so we're thinking how we can leverage that. But then it came from actually like everybody has wonderful technology, but at the end of the day that you need relationships, you need business development to actually make them to use it. So we're focusing on like local government, airline company, university to adapt to actually take it as a massive scale. That was our approach. And then our previous user pool and experience of using have a lot of users can give us insight how to adapt to the new market.
I think the most important thing is to think about, this technology, which is just technology at the end of the day, what makes it 10x more useful? What are those use cases that are 10x more useful than just using a centralized database on the internet, which, let's face it, is pretty darn good, right? And so what I think as an industry, I hear a lot of dialogue around sort of the technical intricacies of technology A versus B, and a lot of really endless debate on these various fronts. And so there's so much focus on infrastructure, there's so much focus on technical purity, so much focus on solution A versus solution B, without a lot of consideration around, is this what we're building actually that much better? Is it more useful, right? Decentralized Uber saves you 20%, but it doesn't actually make it better than Uber, right? Decentralized Twitter, maybe your tweets won't get deleted or whatever it is, but it doesn't actually make it 10x better than existing Twitter. So I think until we really think about why is this technology something which is worthy of mass adoption, we're probably not going to get there. And instead, we're going to be in the current state where we're building a lot of fancy tech, but ultimately just you're building a blockchain to nowhere.
I absolutely agree. When we think about it as mass adoption to us is how do we make people care and value decentralization? How is it going to affect people's lives? How is it going to change their lives for the better? And if we can make something that is that much more valuable to them, then we should all go home. And so we're in early days of that stage, but it's really about being focused on how do we deliver value to the user in a way that they understand it.
And also on that, I mean, decentralization is a pretty hard thing to sell to 4 billion people, right? Because when you tell people, you've got to educate people in so many different ways, right? You've got to basically put someone through an entire course of world history, macroeconomics, political theory, whatever else to get people to understand that, and that just doesn't scale to 4 billion people, right?
Just give them cats.
You can just give them cats. You can give them a little bit of Bitcoin, and so you got to find a different way to sort of help people value that. And frankly, I don't think people really will, right? You talk about how privacy is so important. I would love to know, how many of these people who own a so-called privacy coin value their privacy to so much to, withstand 90% drawdown. I wonder.
I hear you. I do think that you can't tell. Like, if I'm going to talk to my brother about self-sovereignty, his eyes are going to glaze over. When I give him a crypto kitty and he realizes that he can take this kitty anywhere in the world and like go into different apps and whatever, then he starts to get it. I think if we show people rather than tell people that this is important, that's how we're going to get adopted.
Well, the internet was built on cats, so.
Lol.
Yeah, so we work with enterprises and Fortune 500 type of companies. I guess our perspective on mass adoption is different, and there are really two important parts of the mass adoption equation for us. One is the number of pilots and number of proof of concept projects, and I think we've done extremely well on that side. There have been more than 700 pilots and other projects implemented on blockchain over the last few years, and I think that's a tremendous result. But the other important side of that equation is how many pilots actually go into commercial production, and I think this is where we could all certainly do a better job. And the feedback we're hearing from enterprises that they verify the many hypotheses they wanted to verify. They see that blockchain actually adds value, but they're stuck with their with the platforms. They're stuck with Hyperledger. They're stuck with Corda. They're stuck with Ethereum. And it's not on this just on the scalability side of things. I think even more so, it's on the complexity side of things. And when we talk to enterprises, they don't necessarily know what the consensus is or how to pronounce this word, and they don't want to deal with that. They don't want to run a node. They don't want to figure out, which consensus to pick. And I think this is something that's really limiting the conversion of pilots into commercial projects. And that for us is an extremely important criteria for mass adoption. And I don't think we are yet there.
I mean, I agree with all of the panelists, so particularly Lily and Mick, because we're trying to focus on mainstreaming mass adoption three ways. The first one is on the supply side. So we think that the greatest use case is if you can bring money to a user. So if you're decentralizing AWS and people are able to earn $100 to $500 by renting out their compute at night times, especially in a country like, say, Indonesia, which has a per capita GDP of $2,000, $3,000, you're able to add 10%, maybe even 15, 20% to their annual income. That's something meaningful. So we've already signed an arrangement with Telkomsel. So that's 183 million handphones and 4 million broadband set-top boxes in Indonesia. I just did a presentation, so that's on the supply side. So if you imagine all of the devices, another case study is India. So India's per capita GDP is around 1,500 USD per year. And we signed an arrangement with the government of India. So Niti Aayog, the innovation department, we've launched a hackathon with them. And the idea there is if we can bring 100 million Indian consumers to put their phones or their laptops or their devices into a decentralized AWS, you're redirecting, roughly 45% growth, 27 billion was what AWS did this year. So think about redirecting that income towards the developing world through a decentralized mechanism. So that's the supply side. On the demand side, just Friday, I was in Tokyo. We presented our testnet, which ran like data from Intel on cervical cancer, Mercedes-Benz on production data, to 850 CEOs in Tokyo. So we're now we've signed 63 partnerships. We're trying to get AI companies, machine learning companies, people that have large amounts of compute power costs as the demand into the marketplace. And what's interesting about that, coming back to their point, how do we get 10x better? Well, actually, we believe that we can bring the price point down by 80% against AWS's published rack rates. So that's a 5x improvement. And then we're also trying to simplify the process. So we've looked at their, AWS's processes, the way that they, you run and put in a model, and we try to simplify that. So it's still a work in progress. We're going to release our mainnet, Q1, Q2 next year. But the idea is that we will be 10x better, especially on price and convenience. The last way is now for the investors. We think that crypto has to move beyond just the token velocity, the token attention. You know, these types of models are a bit too central monetary policy kind of ingrained. And we're going, you know, the way where, for example, 10% of the compute will be able to be paid back to validator nodes. So you'll be actually able to pull out, you know, almost stablecoin fiat denominated or pegged income from staking tokens. So, you know, one of the problems with the current downturn is if you're getting a staking reward, which is in a native token, you're obviously going to most likely have a depreciation on the native token price that's more than that which you're receiving as a staking gain. But if you're actually able to peg against a real-world centralized price, e.g. AWS, then you're able to actually pull out a denominated USD reward. So there's a few mainstreaming techniques that we hope to see bring, you know, in the millions of users online.
I also think that an important sort of mindset to take in this industry is that how you fare as a consumer or a user is very different from how you fare as an investor, right? If you just think about the word consumer, it means that someone kind of inherently you're kind of like you're consuming something, and as an investor you sort of look for a return. But what's really happening in this industry is this whole idea of decentralization. If it is successful, it's basically taking the economic rents, which used to accrue to the center, which makes investors happy, and it's actually redistributing them to all of the nodes in the system, right? And you know, for example, if you're talking about computing space and the ability to sort of, like, you know, for lack of a better analogy, to Airbnb it out, what you're doing is you're basically, you know, if you're successful, you're flooding the market with a lot of this cheap compute, right? And you know, in the meantime, you're probably not going to have anywhere close to the sort of increase in demand for that compute power. And so then if you think about what that actually does to the value of a token, if you're investing in it, it's likely to put downward pressure on the value of that token, right? If you're just thinking about it from simply supply and demand, and then if you think about the velocity of the token and everything else, it's very hard to come up with a reason why a token that, you know, has those features is going to be very valuable. So that's difficult as an investor to get behind that, but as a consumer, it's actually really great because you've got cheap compute power, you know, always online, potentially some of these new technologies, very secure, very private, whatever else. And so I think that, you know, with crypto, actually, the more people you get sort of who are frenzy buying into this, the worse it is for us as an ecosystem, because I think a lot of the stuff is actually not so great as an investment and probably better for us as consumers and as users.
Just quickly though, the investment models that we do have, there will be people, later on I can show you some models, but based on if you look at a yield return, so if, for example, we're successful in getting the user adoption and the mainstreaming that we hope to, the yield projections is how we're actually pricing the token as opposed to just circulating supply. So we can show you some models later, but we actually think that the price of the token can be divisible. So for example, you'll still be able to get cloud compute, and it will just be a fraction of the token. It won't necessarily mean that the token price will go down. But actually we see in the long term, I mean, if you look at OpenAI, their CTO has already put out that AI demand for compute is doubling every 3.5 months. So there has been, this is why the prices are so high right now. So there's an oligopolistic sort of dynamic that we're trying to break by bringing this you know, influx of new supply. But the most important thing is, just think about this. If it is a race to the bottom, then which countries are going to be, or which populations are going to be more interested in continuing to earn $200 per year? Well, it's going to be the poorer countries. So what are the poorer countries neglected from? Well, it's the current financial system. So once they're actually receiving $200, they may need to do remittances, they may need a wallet, they may need an exchange, and that's when all of these, they may need kitties, they may need all of these other, you know, things that we currently enjoy, access to, you know, loans, to all of the other services which the decentralized community is providing. So we think that the on-ramp for more users, especially in developing countries, is just, you know, income generating opportunities. I'm looking forward to